Welcome back, everybody. Ready for another deep dive?
Definitely. Always up for a good deep dive.
Okay, excellent. Well, today we're going to be digging into something that's really relevant for, I think, anyone in IT these days, especially if you're based in Europe.
Okay.
We're talking about future skills, the skills you're going to need to, really stay on top of your game in this field.
Yeah.
Now, you're probably thinking, oh, it's all about coding and blockchain, right?
Usual suspects.
Yeah, exactly. And while those are still super important, some new research we're looking at today throws in a really fascinating twist.
Oh, I like a good twist.
Oh.
What's this research?
So the paper we're diving into is called Future Skill Needs for IT Professionals, an Empirical Study.
Okay.
And it basically breaks down the specific skills that are going to be in high demand going forward. And some of the findings might surprise you.
I'm intrigued already.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. So I think a good place to start is, well, we always hear about the skills gap, right?
Oh, yeah, the skills gap.
It seems like everyone's talking about it.
Constantly.
Yeah, the mismatch between what new grads are learning and what employers are actually looking for.
Right, exactly.
But this research, it actually goes a little deeper, doesn't it?
It does. So it takes that whole idea of the skills gap and breaks it down into 3 different types of skills.
Okay, lay it on me. What are the 3?
So first you have your technical skills.
Yeah.
That's, your hardcore IT knowledge.
Oh, the must-haves.
Then you have business professional skills.
Okay.
And finally, what they call future skills, which is where things get really interesting.
Ooh, future skills. I like the sound of that.
Right. It's a kind of a catch-all term, but it really gets to the heart of what makes people successful in a world that's changing so rapidly.
So give me an example of some of those technical skills they talk about in the paper.
Sure. They cover a really wide range, actually. Everything from the basics, like math, statistics, all the way to very specific things like cryptography development, how to engineer distributed networks.
Wow, so really deep into the tech.
Oh, yeah. Very nitty-gritty tech stuff.
Okay. What about business and professional skills? What are some examples of those?
So that category is all about how you actually use the technology in a business setting.
Okay, I see.
So things like business analysis, legal compliance, making sure you're following all the rules and regulations, even understanding how to manage a product's life cycle.
Huh. So you're not just coding in a vacuum, you've got to understand the whole business side of things.
Exactly. And it gets even more specific than that. I mean, you'd be surprised even things like affiliate marketing show up here.
Affiliate marketing. Really? Interesting.
Yeah, it's all about understanding how to market and sell technology-based products and services.
So it's a lot more than just knowing the tech. You got to know how to make it work for a business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's where those future skills come in.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about those future skills. What are they exactly?
Right, so future skills, they're what a lot of people refer to as soft skills.
Okay.
Things like, how well you adapt to change, your ability to collaborate effectively with others, critical thinking.
I see. So the skills that help you navigate any situation, not just tech-specific stuff.
Exactly. It's about being agile, being able to think on your feet, and being able to work effectively with people from all sorts of backgrounds.
And what's really surprising, well, at least to me, is that these future skills are actually seen as more important than pure technical skills.
I know, right? It really flips the script.
Even in a super tech-heavy field like blockchain, that's a pretty big deal.
It is. It's a real shift in how we think about what it means to be successful in IT.
And what's even more impressive is the research actually found that 77% of the IT professionals and HR experts they surveyed said that these future skills were either very important or somewhat important for success in the field.
That's a huge majority.
It is, right. It's not just a small group of people saying this. This is like a pretty, widespread belief.
Yeah, it seems like the whole industry is recognizing the importance of these skills.
Okay, so I'm sold. Future skills are where it's at. But can you give me some specific examples? Like, what do these skills actually look like in practice?
Sure. So the researchers they identified 17 specific future skill profiles based on a lot of, prior research in this area.
Oh, wow. We definitely don't have time to go through all 17 today.
Yeah.
Not a chance. But can you highlight a few of the most important ones? I'm dying to know what these are.
Okay, so one of the most important ones is it's called cooperation competence.
Cooperation competence.
Yeah, it's basically about being able to work effectively in teams.
Okay.
And not just any teams, but diverse teams. Teams where you have people from different cultures, different backgrounds.
Right.
And it's about being able to find ways to take those differences and turn them into strengths.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, especially in today's world where so many of us are working remotely, global teams, it's all about collaboration.
Absolutely. Being a good team player is more important than ever.
Okay, what's another one?
Another one that goes hand in hand with cooperation is communication competence.
Communication.
Right. And this isn't just about, being able to talk to people. It's about understanding all those little nuances of communication, being able to have, really productive dialogues.
Right, being able to actually hear what people are saying.
Exactly. Making sure you're communicating clearly and empathetically, no matter what the situation is.
So it's not just about getting your point across. It's about really understanding the other person's perspective.
Yeah, it's about connecting on a deeper level.
Okay, what else? What's another big one?
This one is crucial. Self-efficacy and self-confidence.
Oh, yeah, self-belief.
Exactly. It means believing in yourself and your ability to handle whatever challenges come your way.
I can see how that would be important in IT, where things are changing so fast.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
You have to be able to roll with the punches and trust that you can figure things out.
It's about having that inner confidence to say, okay, I can learn this, I can adapt, I can handle whatever comes next.
I like it. So we've got cooperation, communication, and self-efficacy. 3 of those 17 future skills. Were there any others from the research that really jumped out at you?
There were a few, yeah. Future mindset and willingness to change, innovation and creativity skills, initiative and performance competence. You're probably noticing a pattern here.
Yeah, they're all about being proactive and adaptable.
Exactly. And being prepared for whatever the future throws at you.
But, okay, one thing I'm curious about, and maybe this is getting ahead of ourselves, but do you need all of the future skills, equally? Or does it depend on what your role is within IT?
Well, that's a great question. And you're right, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Okay, good. Because I was thinking, a developer probably needs a different set of skills than, say, a manager.
Exactly. The researchers they looked at 3 different roles within the blockchain field: architects, developers, and managers. And they found some pretty significant differences in the future skills that each role needs.
Okay, so break it down for me. What were some of those key differences?
Well, for example, developers, they don't need to be quite as strong in certain areas,
Yeah.
like design thinking,
Design thinking. Okay.
compared to architects and managers.
Right, because they're more focused on the nuts and bolts of actually building things.
Yeah, they're the ones taking the design and making it a reality.
They're not necessarily the ones coming up with that initial design.
Exactly. Now, managers, on the other hand,
Yeah.
they need a really high level of those organization-focused skills,
Okay.
like being able to cooperate effectively, communicate clearly, and make sense of, complex situations, that sense-making we were talking about,
Right, they're the ones who have to keep the whole team moving in the same direction.
and keep everyone on the same page, which can be a challenge in a fast-paced field like blockchain.
So those skills are essential for them. What about architects? Where do they fit in?
Architects, they're more your big-picture thinkers,
Okay. Yeah.
They need to be really strong in areas like systems thinking, networked thinking. They need to be able to see how all the different parts of a system fit together.
So they're like the masterminds, the ones who see the whole chessboard, not just individual moves.
That's a great way to put it. And they need to be able to understand how their decisions affect the bigger picture.
Okay, that makes sense. So the takeaway here is that even within IT, the mix of future skills you need will depend on what your specific role is.
And what you're hoping to achieve in your career.
Right. It's not just about developing these skills in general. It's about figuring out which ones are going to be most helpful for you.
Exactly.
All right. So this is all great in theory, but I'm wondering, how do these future skills actually play out in the real world?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah. How do you actually, develop these skills and use them in practice?
Well, the good news is the researchers didn't just stop at identifying the skills. They actually interviewed a bunch of IT experts to understand how these skills are being developed and used on the ground.
Oh, really? So they got into the nitty-gritty of it.
They did.
Wow.
And one of the biggest takeaways from those interviews was that IT education really needs to be more interactive and focused on real-world problems.
Oh, interesting. So less theory, more practice.
Exactly. It's not enough to just learn the theory anymore. You have to be able to apply that knowledge to real-world situations.
And you have to be able to do it in a collaborative environment, right?
Absolutely, because, that's how it works in the real world. You're rarely working alone on these complex projects.
So learning by doing is key.
It's essential.
Okay, so what else did those experts have to say?
Well, some of them actually went so far as to say that traditional education just isn't enough anymore.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And they pointed to online platforms like, Udemy, Coursera, things like that.
You're right. The online learning platforms.
Exactly. as valuable resources, but, they also warn that those platforms can sometimes be a little too superficial.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. It's easy to kind of like dip your toes in, but not really dive deep.
Exactly. You need that balance.
Well,
You need a solid foundation of the fundamentals,
mm,
plus the ability to actually use those skills in a practical setting.
so it's not an either, or, you need both.
Right. The theory and the hands-on experience.
Makes sense. But, okay, we've been talking a lot about what the experts think. What about the researchers themselves? Did they offer any specific recommendations based on all this?
They did, and they get really specific. They actually came up with a whole set of recommendations for educational institutions, like really detailed stuff.
Oh, wow. So a whole roadmap for how to actually implement these changes.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, we obviously don't have time to go through all of them, but
Yeah, I was going to say.
I can give you a few highlights.
Yes, please.
So one of the things they stressed was the need to integrate critical thinking, digital literacy, adaptability, problem-solving skills
Yeah, all those good things.
across all grade levels and subject areas.
Oh, interesting. So start early and make it part of everything, not just like a separate class.
Exactly. Weave it into the fabric of education.
I like that. What else? What were some of the other recommendations?
They also said that schools need to move away from traditional exams
Oh, interesting.
and start using more project-based assessments, performance tasks, portfolios.
Oh, so less rote memorization and more about actually being able to use what you've learned.
Exactly. It's about showing that you can apply those skills in a real-world context.
Okay, so it's a more holistic way to measure, how well someone can actually use what they've learned.
Right. And they also emphasize that educators need more professional development opportunities.
Oh, right. The teachers.
Yeah, opportunities that are focused on, specifically on teaching and assessing these future skills.
So it's not just about changing the curriculum. It's about giving teachers the tools and training they need to actually help students develop these skills.
Absolutely. It's a system-wide change that needs to happen.
It sounds like a real call to action for educators everywhere.
It is. This research makes it very clear. Future skills are no longer just a nice to have. They're absolutely essential for anyone who wants to succeed in the world of IT, and I would argue in pretty much any field these days.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think those future skills are becoming increasingly important across the board.
Absolutely, because the world is changing so quickly, and the ability to adapt, to collaborate, to communicate effectively, to think critically, those are the skills that are going to set people apart.
Totally. Well, we've covered a lot of ground already, so maybe we should pause here
Sounds good.
and come back in part 2 to delve even deeper into these future skill profiles and, how you can actually start developing them yourself.
Can't wait.
Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. Before the break, we were just starting to get into those 17 future skill profiles that the research identified.
Right, yeah. We only scratched the surface.
So, are you ready to unpack a few more of those?
Absolutely. I'm ready to dive deeper.
Okay, great. So, we've already talked about cooperation, communication, and self-efficacy and self-confidence. Those were the first 3.
Mm-hmm. Some good ones to start with.
Yeah, definitely. So give me another one. What's another one of those future skills that really stands out?
Okay, how about self-determination and autonomy?
Self-determination and autonomy.
This one is all about, being proactive, taking initiative, having that inner drive to kind of like carve your own path.
Yeah, so you're not waiting for someone to tell you what to do. You're the one in the driver's seat.
Exactly. You're setting your own goals. You're figuring out how to get there. You're not afraid to take risks.
Right. You're the captain of your own ship, which I think is, especially important these days.
Yeah, especially in a world that's changing so fast, you can't just sit back and wait for things to happen to you.
You got to be out there making things happen.
Exactly. All right, ready for another one?
Hit me.
Okay, this one is super relevant, especially in the fast-paced world of IT. We're talking about ambiguity competence.
Ambiguity competence. Okay, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's a mouthful, I know.
Tell me more. Tell me more. What does that actually mean?
So, think about it this way. Are you comfortable with uncertainty?
Ooh, good question.
Can you embrace the unknown? Can you navigate those situations where there isn't a clear roadmap, where you don't have all the answers right away?
Okay, so it's not about having all the answers. It's about being okay with not having all the answers.
Exactly. Because let's face it, in a field like IT, things are changing so rapidly, there's always going to be something new to learn, some new challenge to figure out.
Right, and if you freak out every time you encounter something you don't know, you're going to be in trouble.
Exactly. You got to be able to roll with it.
Yeah.
Be comfortable with that feeling of, okay, I don't know this yet, but I'm going to figure it out.
Okay, I'm liking this ambiguity competence. All right, what else do we have? What's another one of those future skills?
Okay, this one might sound a little mysterious, maybe even a little intimidating. Sense making?
Sense making. That sounds like something out of like a detective novel or something.
Well, in a way, it kind of is. Think of it as being a detective of data.
Okay, I like that. A data detective.
Right. So you're faced with a ton of information, right?
An overload of data, yeah.
And you need to be able to sift through it all, find the patterns, figure out what's actually important, what's noise, and what's signal.
So it's about making sense of all the chaos and finding those key insights.
Exactly. It's not just about, absorbing information. It's about being able to analyze it, to connect the dots, to pull out the meaning that's hidden within all that data.
Yeah, because we're all drowning in information these days.
We are, and that's why this skill is becoming more and more important, being able to filter out all the noise and focus on what really matters.
Okay, so we've got self-determination, being comfortable with ambiguity, sense-making. What other future skills are, really essential for IT professionals who want to navigate this ever-changing world?
Okay, so here's one that I think is gaining importance in, well, all fields, but especially in IT, and that is ethical and environmental competence.
Ethical and environmental competence. Okay, so now we're talking about the bigger picture.
Right. It's not just about the technical stuff anymore. It's about thinking about the impact of your work, the ethical implications, the environmental consequences.
Yeah, I mean, in a world where technology is like getting more powerful every day, you really have to think about those things.
Absolutely. You have a responsibility to use your skills for good, to make sure that what you're creating is actually benefiting society and not harming the planet.
So it's about being a responsible innovator, a conscious creator.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a bunch of those future skills, which is awesome. But I remember you mentioned that some skills are more important for certain roles than others, right?
Yes, that's right. Remember those 3 blockchain roles we talked about?
The architect, the developer, and the manager.
Right. So the future skills they need, they definitely differ in some pretty key ways.
Okay, remind me, what were some of those like key differences?
Well, for example, developers.
Yeah.
They don't need to be quite as strong in design thinking compared to architects and managers.
Right, which makes sense because, developers are more focused on the technical implementation. They're not necessarily the ones coming up with the initial design.
Exactly. They're taking that design and turning it into code, making it a reality.
Right, they're the builders.
Exactly. Now, architects, on the other hand,
yeah,
they're all about the big picture, so they need a really high level of that system thinking
right?
and network thinking.
Because they have to see how everything fits together.
Right. They need to understand how all the pieces connect, how their decisions affect the entire system.
Okay, so they're like the systems thinkers, the master planners.
That's a great way to put it. And then we have the managers.
Right, the managers. What kind of future skills do they need?
So as you might expect, managers need those really strong organization-focused skills.
Okay.
We're talking about cooperation, communication, and sense-making.
Right. They're the ones who are keeping the team functioning smoothly, keeping everyone on the same page.
Exactly. They're the ones who are, resolving conflicts, making sure deadlines are met, keeping everything moving forward.
Right. So they're like the glue that holds everything together.
Exactly. So, what we're seeing here is that it's not just about developing future skills in general.
Yeah.
It's about figuring out which specific future skills are going to be most helpful for you, for your particular role and your career goals.
Yeah, so it's about being strategic and intentional about how you approach your own professional development.
Exactly. And the good news is,
yeah,
the researchers, they actually offer some really solid recommendations for how schools and individuals can actually develop these essential skills.
Okay, yes, recommendations. I'm ready for some actionable advice here. Tell me what they suggest.
Well, one of the, I think, most important things they talked about was the need for a more hands-on, experience-based approach to learning.
Okay, yeah, we talked about that a little bit before, the whole learning by doing thing.
Right, exactly. Less theory, more practice.
But how? How do you actually, put that into practice? How do you get that practical experience?
Well, they have some great suggestions for that, too. For example, volunteering.
Volunteering.
That's a fantastic way to get hands-on experience, Find a cause that you're passionate about and see if you can use your skills to help a nonprofit organization.
Oh, I love that idea.
Right.
You're giving back to the community and building valuable skills at the same time.
It's a win-win.
Okay, what are some other ways to get that real-world experience?
Well, internships are, of course, a classic way to go.
Yeah, internships.
And freelance projects, too. Look for opportunities that align with your interests and your career goals, and you'll get to work on real projects, learn from experienced professionals, and get that all-important feedback to help you grow.
So it's about being proactive and looking for opportunities to learn by doing, even if it's outside of your current job?
Exactly. And don't forget about personal projects.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Those can be so valuable.
Yeah, passion projects.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If there's, a skill you want to learn, a technology you're curious about, just dive in and start creating something.
Right. Just go for it.
Yeah, it could be, building a website, designing an app, writing a blog. It really doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And something that, allows you to learn and grow along the way.
Yeah, I love that. Passion projects are such a great way to, explore your interests and kind of like have fun while you're learning.
Exactly. And they give you something concrete to show potential employers. You can point to that and say, look, this is what I can do.
Right. Yeah, it's proof that you have those skills.
Exactly.
Okay. What else did the researchers recommend?
They also talked a lot about the importance of building a strong professional network.
Okay. Networking. I know it's important, but it's not always the easiest thing to do, you know?
I hear you. Networking can definitely feel a little intimidating for some people.
Yeah, a little awkward sometimes.
But it doesn't have to be. It's not about, forcing conversations or collecting business cards.
Right. It's not about that.
It's about building genuine connections with people who share your interests and goals, Find those people who you can really connect with on a professional level.
Right. So it's about building authentic relationships, not just like superficial ones.
Exactly.
Okay, but how do you actually do that? Like, where do you even start?
Well, there are a lot of different ways to go about it, but I think one of the best places to start is by going to industry events,
Okay, conferences, meetups, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Conferences, workshops, meetups. There are tons of opportunities to meet people who are working in the same field as you, You could also join online communities and forums that are related to your interests.
Right. So there's the in-person stuff and the online stuff.
Exactly. And, don't be shy about reaching out to people you admire. Ask for informational interviews.
Just be like, hey, can I pick your brain for a few minutes?
Exactly. Most people are happy to share their experiences and offer advice. They were once in your shoes.
Right. Everyone had to start somewhere.
Exactly.
Okay.
So don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help.
Great advice. And you never know, where those connections might lead.
That's right. It's all about building those relationships and seeing where they take you.
Okay. Any other nuggets of wisdom from the researchers before we wrap up this part?
One thing that really stuck with me was their emphasis on mindset.
Mindset. Okay.
Yeah, because developing future skills, it's not just about learning specific techniques.
Right. It's bigger than that.
It's about cultivating that growth mindset.
Oh, yeah. Growth mindset is so important.
It is. It's about embracing lifelong learning and being open to new challenges and experiences.
So it's not just about what you know. It's about how you approach learning and growth.
Exactly. It's about being curious, being willing to step outside of your comfort zone, and being okay with making mistakes along the way.
Yeah. Mistakes are part of the learning process.
They are. And they're actually valuable because they teach you so much.
Right. You learn more from your failures than your successes, or so they say.
Absolutely. So don't be afraid to fail, to experiment, to try new things.
So the takeaway here is that developing future skills is really an ongoing journey, not a one-time destination.
Exactly. It's a continuous process of self-discovery, exploration, and growth.
I love that. Okay, well, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
So maybe we should take a pause here.
Oh.
And come back in part 3 where we'll dig into some really specific recommendations for, how you can actually develop these future skills, how you can put all this into practice.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it.
You won't want to miss it. All right, welcome back for the final part of our deep dive into future skills.
Future skills, it's all about preparing for what's next. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Before the break, we were talking about how crucial it is to kind of keep learning and growing throughout your career.
Lifelong learning, it's not just a buzzword, it's essential these days.
It really is. But I think a lot of people, myself included sometimes, might feel a little overwhelmed. Where do you even begin?
Right.
There's just so much information out there.
It's information overload.
It is. And there are so many different paths you could take. It can feel kind of paralyzing, to be honest.
I get it. Totally. It's like, okay, I know I need to learn new things, but where do I even start?
Exactly. So I'm hoping you can help us out here. Like, what's the first step?
Well, the good news is the researchers we've been talking about, they actually offer some really practical advice.
Okay, good, because I definitely need some practical advice.
I think we all do. So one of the most straightforward suggestions they make
Yeah.
is to really take a good look at your current skill set.
Okay, so a little self-reflection is in order.
Exactly. It's time for a personal inventory, like what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are you already great at? And where could you use some improvement?
So, step one, know thyself.
Know thyself, exactly.
Yeah.
And, you can even use some of those online assessments and tools to help you with this.
Yeah, right.
There are tons of personality tests and skill assessments out there.
Oh, yeah. Those can be really helpful for just getting a clearer picture of where you stand.
Exactly. It's all about understanding your starting point.
And then once you have a better understanding of your strengths and weaknesses, you can start to prioritize. Like, okay, which future skills do I really need to focus on?
Exactly. Which ones are going to be most valuable for my particular career path?
Okay, so that's step one, the self-assessment. What comes next? What's another one of those like actionable tips?
Okay, so the researchers were very clear about this. Look for opportunities to get hands-on experience.
Okay, we've talked about this, the whole, learning by doing thing.
Right. But it bears repeating because it's so important.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not enough to just read about these skills or take an online course.
Yeah.
You have to actually put them into practice in the real world.
Okay, so get out there and do the thing. But like, what are some concrete ways that someone can get that hands-on experience?
Well, we talked about volunteering before.
Right, volunteer.
And that's a fantastic way to do that, Find a cause you're passionate about and see if you can use your skills to help a nonprofit.
Yeah, you're helping others and you're
Yeah.
building your skills at the same time. It's really a win-win.
It is. What are some other options for getting real-world experience?
Well, internships are always a good option, right?
Internships are great, yeah. And freelance projects, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Freelancing.
Look for opportunities that align with your interests and your career goals, and you'll get to, work on real projects, learn from experienced professionals, and get that all-important feedback to help you grow.
So it's about being proactive and looking for those opportunities to learn by doing, even if it's, outside of your current job.
Exactly. And don't forget about personal projects.
Oh, yeah. The passion projects.
Exactly. If there's, a skill you want to learn or a technology you're curious about, just dive in and start creating something.
Yeah, just go for it.
It could be building a website, designing an app, writing a blog. It really doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's, something you're passionate about and something that allows you to learn and grow along the way.
Yeah, I love that. Because passion projects, it's a way to kind of explore your interests and have fun while you're learning.
Exactly. And they give you something that you can show potential employers. Like, you can point to it and say, look, this is what I can do.
Right. It's proof that you have those skills.
Exactly.
Okay. What else did the researchers recommend?
Well, we talked about it briefly in the last part, but they also talked a lot about the importance of building a solid professional network.
Okay, networking.
Yeah.
I know it's important, but it's not always the most fun thing to do.
I know it can feel a little daunting for some people.
Yeah, and sometimes a little awkward.
It can be, but it doesn't have to be. It's not about like forcing conversations or collecting business cards.
Right. It's not about that.
It's about building genuine connections with people who share your interests and your goals,
Right. It's about building those authentic relationships, not just the superficial ones.
Exactly. So how do you actually go about doing that?
Yeah, where do you even start?
Well, I think one of the best places to start is by, going to industry events.
Okay, so conferences, meetups, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Conferences, workshops, meetups. There are tons of opportunities to meet people who are working in the same field as you. And, you can also join online communities and forums that are related to your interests.
Right. So there's the in-person stuff and the online stuff.
Exactly. And don't be shy about reaching out to people you admire.
Oh, yeah.
Ask for informational interviews. Just be like, hey, can I pick your brain for a few minutes?
Yeah, I love that.
Most people are happy to share their experiences and offer advice. They were once in your shoes.
Right. Everyone had to start somewhere.
Exactly. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help.
Great advice. Okay. Any other final words of wisdom from the researchers before we wrap up this whole episode?
One of the things they really emphasized was the importance of mindset.
mindset. Okay.
Because developing these future skills, it's not just about, learning specific techniques or following a certain set of steps.
Right. It's a way of thinking.
It is. It's about cultivating that growth mindset, embracing the idea of lifelong learning, and being open to new challenges and experiences.
So it's not just about what you know. It's about how you approach learning and growth in general.
Exactly. It's about being curious, being willing to step outside of your comfort zone and being okay with making mistakes along the way.
Yeah, mistakes are just part of the process.
They are. And they're actually valuable because they teach you so much.
Right, you learn more from your failures than your successes, or so they say.
Absolutely. So, don't be afraid to fail, to experiment, to try new things.
Yeah, embrace those failures.
Embrace the messiness of it all. And remember,
Yeah.
developing these future skills, it's an ongoing journey. It's not a, one-time destination.
Right, there's no finish line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a continuous process of self-discovery and exploration and growth.
Love that. Well, I think we've covered a ton of ground in this episode.
We have. It's been a really fascinating deep dive.
It has. So just to kind of recap, the research shows that these future skills are becoming, they're absolutely crucial for success in the rapidly evolving world of IT.
And it's not just about IT, right?
Yeah.
These skills are essential for anyone who wants to thrive in the future of work, no matter what field they're in.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the best part is anyone can develop these skills,
Absolutely.
with a little effort and intentionality.
That's right. By embracing lifelong learning, seeking out those hands-on experiences, and cultivating a growth mindset, you can equip yourself with the future skills you need to navigate all the challenges and the opportunities that lie ahead.
That's a great note to end on. So to wrap things up, if you want to learn more about all of this, we highly recommend checking out the full research paper. It's called Future Skill Needs for IT Professionals, an Empirical Study.
And you can find a link to it in the show notes.
Exactly. And until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.